Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to World at War Comics. My next special guest is the senior editor of Valiant Comics, Miss Lysa Hawkins. Lysa, thank you so much for one, the back and forth. I know I had you scheduled before. You were so nice to reschedule. And here we sat for 5 minutes because I couldn't hear you. And all I had to do was put my headphones on. So most of my viewers know what a goof I am. But I'm just really happy to have you on here. Very excited about Valiant. But before we jump into all of that, first, how's your week going? I'm assuming it's pretty busy, but today is Thursday, so hopefully a little less busy since we're after that Wednesday. But how are you today?
I am hot, like probably everybody else in this country. Yeah, really burning up. I wanted to have my hair blown out, but wasn't going to happen today because it would frizz up and I'd look like a Q-tip. But I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Yes, very busy. There's so very much going on right now with Resurgence and then plotting the future of Valiant afterwards. There's a ton on the plate. I was actually just working on the publishing slate for next year. So much exciting stuff coming down the pike. But thank you for asking. I am excellent.
Excellent. So glad to hear that. Now, Lysa, you have an amazing history in comic books. I would love to kind of go back and love your perspective of how you got into comic books, that what drew you into comic books, and from the editorial side. I mean, you have handled some of the top titles from both Marvel and DC, and then obviously now the entire universe at Valiant. Is there anything at the very beginning that you could draw from that's helping you today?
Well, there's so many questions, and you just threw at me, and that's a very long history that you're asking to hear. How much time do you have? I got into comics just like so many of others. You know, as a child, my I used to go to Florida every summer to visit my uncle, who was a huge comic book fan, and he would have volumes of comics, not just the floppies, but he'd have like Wonder Woman, the Ms. Wonder Woman Chronicles, and Batman 30s to 70s, Superman, 30s to 70s, all of like Marvel Origins, Sons of Origins, Bring on the Bad Guys, my personal favorite. But I started reading that like at 5 years old and fell in love with it. And as I grew older, I continued my love of comics and continued to read comics. And I worked at Heroes World in high school, and in college, I studied mythology and what is mythology, or whatever, are comics but are modern myths. And I didn't think that I was paving a way to comics during all of this. In fact, comics were never in my mind until I was driving across country, really feeling dejected with my tail between my legs, feeling like a failure in my early 20s, like so many of us do. Um, and my only pick me up was comics at the time. And at that time, it was Wolverine, X-Men. And I'd be stopping in comic book stores across the country, picking them up. And then about, halfway across the country, I think Chicago, it occurred to me, that Marvel Comics was in New York. And I was like, okay, now I want to work there. And it was like this little idea, sat and festered in my brain. And when I got back to New York, I called Marvel, and the receptionist, a beautiful woman named Geraldine, must have taken pity on me because she put me in touch with Jackie Green, the head of human resources. And the next thing I knew, I got an interview. And I went there and I interviewed, and I thought I did terribly. I thought, oh my God, I'm the biggest geek in the world and there's no way they're hiring me. I was confirmed of this and I got another job. But then a couple of weeks later, I got a phone call from Virginia Ramita, and uh, I love, my favorite Spider-Man artist is Jazzy Johnny Ramita. And so when his wife, Virginia Ramita, called me, I about died. And she said, well, I need an assistant in the bullpen. Do you want to be it? And I said, yes. And I got my foot in the door at Marvel, and I was thrilled. Couldn't be happier for a little bit of time until I realized that my job was really vainglorious and that Virginia didn't need an assistant. And I did maybe 15 minutes worth of work a day. And they were starting to fire people. And I got really scared that somebody would say, hey, we don't need her. And I didn't want them to say that. So I sort of learned what everybody was doing in production, and I created a new job for myself. It was during the time when we were going from mechanical pencils to paste ups to digital. So this was a new process, and they needed to have all the pages scanned in. And so they needed somebody to actually check the pages, make sure all of the copy was in the right, was in the right places. Nothing was bleeding out that shouldn't have been bleeding out or getting lost. And of course, there was no profanity on the page because artists like to do that. If they can hide a little blowjob in the corner, they do it. So,
really?
Yeah, they do. So that was my job. And it assured me to have a job, but it was boring. I mean, basically all day long, it was this repetitive thing that I was doing. And all I wanted to be was in editorial. So I kept trying to knock on that door. But they were not really receptive to me. And it always went to the editorial male intern that was there. Getting from production to editorial was quite the feat. You didn't do that. It just didn't work out that way. But I kept trying, and I tried 4 times, and the 4th time I knocked on the door, it was different. I was applying for a job for an assistant editor for 2 associate editors. So I would be doing like 12 books. It would be the same amount of books. But they didn't just interview me. They gave me a blue book. And a blue book at the time was the last go-to before it went to print. So if you were going to make corrections on the book, you'd make it in the blue book and then hand it to them to corrections, and they'd make the corrections before it went to print. So they gave it to me, and I took it home, and I made my edits on, and I gave them back. And lo and behold, I got the job, and I was stunned. And then I had to tell them, hey, I'm 3 months pregnant. And I was sure they would say, hey, male editorial intern. But to their credit, they said, so what?
Yeah.
And I got the job. And then I stayed at Marvel for many, many years. Primarily, I was working in the X office. And then DC called 4 times. They knocked on my door, ironically enough, to come over there. And the 4th time, it was the bat phone ringing. And, you don't say no to Batman. So there it was, and I went over to DC, and I was there for a few more years. And then I went out of comics for a while, but the lure of comics kept sort of pulling me back. And then I started teaching comics to kids because I missed it. And so I was like, come on, learn how to make a comic book in 10 weeks. And it was so much fun, but it was sort of like I'd go to comic book conventions and be like that little girl looking in the window going, I want to go in, I want to be in. And it was sort of weird. But then I got a phone call from somebody I met on my very first day at Marvel Comics. And he said, Lysa, what are you doing? And I said, I'm teaching comics to kids. And he said, because I'm up at Valiant, and it's a bit of a sausage fest. And I said, really? Tell me more. And they said, well, we're looking for an editor, and you think you should throw your name in the hat. And I said, throw it in. And then a few months later, I got the job.
Wow.
And I've been there, So
yeah. Now, what year was that? What year was that when you went to Valiant, Lysa?
2018.
So okay, wow. Because Valiant went through some of the best years that any publisher could possibly go through from that time frame. So we got 2018 through 20, or they just came out of it, right? It was the 2012 era where they won publisher 3 or out of 4 years or 4 out of 5 years.
Yeah.
You came in right after that, right?
I came in right when they were making changes.
So that's when they were making the changes.
Yeah.
How hard was that to come in? Wow, because that was quite a major change, wasn't it?
Well, because I came in afterwards, I didn't feel the change, you know?
Okay, good,
So,
yeah.
it wasn't like that from me. I heard about it from others,
Yeah.
but I didn't feel it personally.
Yeah. From a fan perspective, right? You hear all kinds of things. You never know what's true or not. So then you come in, and then everything's kind of calmed down now,
Oh, well,
and
everything is
you're able to.
crazy.
Oh,
Everything
was
is
it still?
but everything is calmed down now ish, I
Yeah,
mean, we're
yeah,
under really good stewards now with Alien,
yeah,
which I couldn't be happier about. We're being more creative than ever, and we're allowed to do things that we've never been
yeah,
able to. I've been wanting to do for years, and I haven't been allowed to do. So it's pretty exciting. You were
yeah.
asking what about my beginnings in comics that
Hmm.
I'm using to draw into my time now at Valiant. And you actually made a mistake. I'm not just a senior editor now. I'm editor in chief.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, quite all
I'm so
right.
sorry. No, that's kind of a big change, Lisa. I would say that's a huge change.
Well, thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you.
So when did this take place, Lisa? When was it announced? Because I was going through all
It
the.
was just announced in June.
Oh, okay, wow. Well, congratulations. Well
Thank
deserved. I mean,
you.
like we were saying at the very beginning, I mean, you've worked on. I wrote a lot of stuff down. I mean, X-Men, Batman, Teen Titans, Spider-Man Unlimited. I mean, Gail Simone, from my understanding, also is someone that you brought into comics. Am I mistaken
Yes,
by
well,
that?
no,
And
I didn't bring her into comics. I actually loved one of, I think it was called Killer Princesses. There was a book
uh,
that she was doing in the 90s or early 20s or 2000s that I really loved.
yeah,
And then I brought her into to Birds of Prey. Yeah.
there you
So
go. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a pretty big thing too. I think she's had a pretty nice career, and
she has.
now she's in the X office as well, writing. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
So wow,
Everything comes in full
congratulations.
circle.
Wow, that's incredible. So now we're here today. We have this resurgence. What is one of the most difficult things, and how are you choosing from this universe what to release and at what time to release? Because I don't think if people haven't dove into the Valiant universe before, I'm not sure they understand how vast it is. It's an amazing universe with incredible characters. So how are you? I mean, obviously you got to have your X-O Manowar, you got to have your blood. Like there's certain characters, right? You would make sense to start with, but how are you choosing as you're moving forward through this resurgence?
Well, there's a number of things going on. When the Valiants came out last summer, the goal was to sort of touch upon the entire universe because we hadn't had any kind of universe building book.
Yeah,
Most of our books sort of were like an island unto
one
themselves.
shot,
It would be like,
a
okay,
little bit of
here's
one shot, right?
X-O universe and maybe Bloodshot would cameo, but you
Yeah,
wouldn't see too much of the rest of the universe. It would feel very much of its own thing. So the goal was like, let's bring them all together. This is a melting pot, right? Let's throw them all in and see what happens because it's more interesting
yeah,
that way. And it feels like you have a real universe, a real superhero universe.
yeah,
So that was the goal. And then it leads right into Resurgence, right?
yeah,
This Valiance is gonna lead right into Resurgence. And hopefully it's going to shake things up. I think it's going to. But we're dealing with a universe that a lot of people don't know these characters.
yeah,
You know, they're not well aware of them. It's sort of like they might know, okay, a little bit about them, the bare minimum,
yeah,
but they really don't know who they are, which is
right,
exciting because this is like
yeah,
a place we can introduce all these characters to everybody and hopefully get them to fall in love with them. Um,
yeah,
but and I think that showcasing a little bit, who they are a little bit at a time will build this universe
yeah,
for people instead of overwhelm them.
absolutely,
I
yeah,
mean, I want people to be like, because there is so many characters. I want people to um, be able to take it in piecemeal. So
yeah,
that the whole road to Resurgence was building blocks.
yeah,
If you read this, you're gonna see that there's an underlining plot that leads
yeah,
to this resurgence, but you're gonna learn who these characters are in the
yeah.
interim. And all of these characters are going to be at play in Resurgence.
Yeah. I had the pleasure of having Ryan Caddy on, and he was kind of put in a position to kind of start with the free comic book day, right? The Valiants, which really, like you said, kind of sets the tone, I guess you could say. And then we had AJ on with Ninjak and Roku. We had Fred on with Archer and Armstrong a little bit later this year, which I'm really excited because his first run was so amazing. Talking to AJ and the fan that he is. Oh, yeah. So, I mean, it's incredible so far. Everything has been beautiful on what Becky and Michael are doing. Kind of on the second chapter of X-O, because I knew we had the Unconquered right before, and that was more of a, like you said, a self-isolated story. And now we're doing, I think, a little bit of something that obviously is going to build the Resurgence and then kind of open up that universe for everybody else. But yeah, there's a lot. I mean, Faith is on issue 2 already. You've come out pretty strong, pretty quick. Do you feel comfortable with the timing of the books and how they're coming out? And do you think that cadence will continue kind of throughout the rest of the year with titles?
Yes. Yes,
yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
Awesome. I mean, we've had some delays, but they've been due to printers, houses not getting us, the books in time. But but yes, we're on schedule to have a very robust fall, rest of the summer and fall, and then hopefully to build up our line to more books next year.
Wow. Now, as we look toward the end of the year, we kind of have an idea of what most of the books have been, just through some of the websites and whatnot. Is there anything that you could kind of share that maybe has been out there and maybe we're not aware of yet, that is coming from another title that will be added to the Resurgence, or kind of what we're seeing right now with all the different titles will kind of continue through the rest of the year?
Well, I'm not sure.
I know we have... like
well,
Archer and Armstrong, right? We have coming toward the end of the year. Are there any other titles like that?
We have a bunch of books that are coming out that will lead, like I said, into Resurgence. A&A is one of them. Eternal Warriors.
Awesome.
Everything that comes out before September leads into it, basically.
Yeah.
And then we have some. Our fall books are going to, we're obviously going to take into consideration that October is Halloween, so we'll have supernatural stuff coming out. We'll be pushing that. And the event will run through January of next year. And we will have one-shots that will be coming out starting in October. That will be like the first one is a Resurgence of the Eternal Warrior. So it's a one-shot on the Eternal Warrior, but it will be set in Resurgence as well.
Oh, excellent. And then I saw something else that you're doing, which I thought was brilliant, because you said there are a lot of fans that a lot of these characters might be very new to. And so it's, correct me if I'm wrong, but if I'm not mistaken, you can now, or maybe purchase in August, you're going to have like an X-O Manowar, and it's going to be a collection of stories of X-O, of Arik, and then you're going to have an Eternal Warrior, so people can get a
wonderful series coming out, the Origins collection.
Yes.
And yes, it's basically a best of these characters. One shot. It's not a one shot. I'm sorry, like X-O 101. That type of thing. If you need to know about them, this is how you learn it, and they're beautifully done as well. So
I was very excited. I was very excited to see that. I think that's such an amazing opportunity for people to jump in, understand the character as they enter into the world. Incredible. Now,
the hope is that somebody will pick this up that hasn't picked it up before, that they'll read, they'll see a little cameo of X-O in, the Valiants, or, I just gave away something. Spoiler. But you'll see X-O in something, and then you'll be like, oh, I want to know more about him. But instead of being daunted and going back into all of the history, this is sort of like, I don't want to say a crib sheet, but it's it's your way of finding it, learning about the character without feeling overwhelmed.
Yeah. And can you kind of talk about this partnership with Alien and how that came about? Lysa, because it seems like this partnership is going to be really important to be able to accomplish everything that Valiant wants to accomplish with this universe.
Well, it sort of came about quickly. Yeah. Last year around this time, the deal was struck, and it was very exciting because we had been down to not publishing a lot at Valiant, and this gave us an opportunity to just right off the bat publish so much more. And as I said, so much more creativity is open to us. And we are going to be pushing things to the limit. Even, dare I say, killing people, it happens, events have to have consequences, right? Or else what is it? Is it? It's not worth it. So yeah, we are pushing things that we would never be allowed to do before. So it's incredibly exciting times. Incredibly exciting times. It's just it's just a matter of people finding us. And I go into comic book stores and we're not on the shelves. And it's very disheartening to me because I understand it's a business and we're not the top two. But if we're not on the shelf, nobody's going to find us.
Exactly.
And I understand and thank God. And I love our fans because they're wonderful. But we need new fans. We need more people to pick them up, pick up the books, and we're presenting a perfect opportunity for that new reader to come in. We just hope that they come. And that's, I think Alien is doing a great job of promoting these books, of getting access out there of these books, of letting bringing more characters out to the world again. I mean, before, how can we showcase a universe if we're only, putting out one or two books? Hard to do that. So, we are able to put somebody's favorite Valiant character out there this year, almost all of them. I know, everybody wants the ones I can't put out, but I don't have the rights, guys, so we're doing the best we can. My goal is to get them all out there, at least briefly, I think that's my biggest frustration is that we're not accessible enough.
Now I'm hoping with some of the news that's being made, hopefully with these kind of entry-level books, like the 101 books, that people who have not experienced Valiant, because like you said, it was a little sporadic when books were coming out. I'd always look for them, and once in a while you see a Bloodshot, I get really excited. It might be like a 2 or 3 issue, short story or a one shot, which is great. It kind of you got a little sip of that drink, but we certainly wanted something a little bit more monthly basis. So I'm very excited about Alien, and I'm hoping that other fans that I know people that have named their children Arc because of their fandom of X-O Manowar, right? So they're out there. We just need, I think, to start letting people know that this universe really is an amazing universe, incredible characters. And boy, if there's anything, I think, from a fan perspective that we could do to help with that, Lysa, I think you would get a lot of support from Valiant fans, because we've been waiting a long time, and now we're finally getting it, right? So do we sit back and complain, or do we really jump in now because we're finally getting the titles that we've been wanting on a regular basis? So congratulations to that. That cannot be easy to do. Can you talk about the process of putting the teams together for each of these titles? I mean, some like Fred, I don't know if it was easy. I mean, I know Fred does a lot of amazing stuff. I've seen some of his courses because, he also teaches writing comics, and he's brilliant. And he has some awesome things that he does on his own, on an independent way. AJ seems like a younger, more enthusiastic, grew up a huge Ninjak fan. So he's really excited. But can you kind of talk about how the team was put together and how long that process took for you?
Sure. Well, I can specifically talk about those two people. Fred, I've wanted to work with Fred for a while
Yeah.
because I really enjoyed his A&A and everything he's done for Valiant. So I reached out to him at New York Comic Con last year when Alien first took over, and said, "Fred, I want to talk to you." And we spoke shortly after that, and I immediately got him on board to start working on books. Yeah, right off the bat.
Right off the
It was
bat.
very easy. We were very simpatico, because I had been planning this whole event and the Valiants and everything at that point. I knew that there was going to be so many different, pieces in play, and I needed somebody who was very well versed in the Valiant universe and could play, move them around with me, because I'm going to be like, nope, you can't do this, but you can do this, and he was perfect, perfect with that. AJ, I met him a few years ago at a panel that I was doing about, getting into comics and, just comics in general. And he stood up and he said, I'm a writer, and how do I get a writer or an editor to pay any attention to me and talk to me? And I said, well, you're talking to an editor right now. And I gave him my information, and he called. And he pitched something that I thought was really, really good, very strong. And unfortunately, I couldn't use it at the time, but I remembered him. And so when Alien took over, I reached out to him and I said, I want to work with you. And then I gave him a shot, and I liked what he did. And I gave him more shots. That's really what it is. So both AJ and Fred are two of my big people who are working on a lot of stuff this fall.
Yeah. And then as far as Ryan Caddy goes, and maybe you can't answer this, so if not, no problem, but will he be doing other things outside of the Valiants? Because if I'm not mistaken, that's a shorter series, right? The Valiants, that's not an ongoing title.
Well, unfortunately, we don't have quote unquote ongoing titles really right now. That is, of course, the goal, is that
exactly.
A book sustains, that's the word I'm looking for, a ongoing title. But right now we're just 4 or 5 issues are where it's at right now. Right now I don't have any plans to work with Ryan. I love Ryan. I think he's awesome. And so I hope that changes.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm a big fan of his as well. And we've had him on the show, and he was so excited to be able to participate in everything that's happening with the Resurgence, just like everybody else we talked to. But incredible. So moving forward, Lysa, what can we expect? You just mentioned right now that, obviously we would love for a lot of these titles to be ongoing, but are we just going to be kind of going through a lot of the characters and just giving them as much exposure as possible and kind of seeing where fans maybe, I don't want to say stick, but
yes and no.
Okay,
Yes and no. Much like all the books have been, like Road to Resurgence, everything sort of is built into a bigger universe. Everything going forward is going to continue in that vibe.
Gotcha.
There will be, whatever the follow-up to Resurgence, there will be, obviously, as I said before, any kind of event has a consequence, and it's not like that goes away. It doesn't just change. It changes the status quo. So that will happen. I'm not saying there's going to be reboots going on, not saying no, but things are going to be very different at the end of this event for the Valiant Universe for next year. Whether it's going to be forever, who knows? But it will lead into different types of stories. Yes, certain books will come back. There will be an X-O story coming out, of course, but it will be tied into what's happening. And so it won't be like X-O off into space by himself. That won't be it.
Yeah.
There'll be like an Eternal Warrior, Ninjak. I mean, all of like your heavy hitters will come back to play, but
That's
it
good.
will also be leading into another mini event in the spring, into a major event in the fall. So yeah. Everything sort of ties together. However, that said, you don't need to read everything in order to understand.
Yeah. Understood. Yeah. And let's be honest, like some characters are not for everybody, right? That's why a universe, I think, is so important. There's going to be a character you gravitate to and you don't want to miss it. There's another one that's a little bit harder to relate to. That happens in every publisher, right? That's why you want such a diverse cast within your universe, which is incredible. Being the editor-in-chief of everything that's going on with the Resurgence, is when you look back and you were telling me that first story of on your way to the East Coast, I'm going to try and my shot at Marvel, and on that fourth time getting that call, is right now what you're experiencing, Lysa, as the editor-in-chief of Valiant, is this what that dream was back then? Is this what you really could say, like, man, I finally achieved exactly what I wanted?
Of course. I mean, I am living the editor's dream right now. I'm like Stan Lee. I'm creating a universe, and that's, I mean, yes, the characters are there, don't get me wrong, but I'm playing with them all, I have power. And this is the fun part. This is it. So yes, no, absolutely. And it all led there. And I have to say, I am completely indebted to my mentors along the way. I was lucky enough to have Mark Grunwald at Marvel be one of my mentors. He would read my stories. He would, and he was doing this as an editor, senior editor over on Editor Row, and I was lowly production. I didn't need, he didn't need to do any of that, but he would take me aside because he knew I wanted to be there. I wanted to write stories. He gave me the editor's Bible, way before I was ever in there. So, I mean, having a mentor like him was important. When I was over at DC, they started editorial school there. And Denny O'Neil was my teacher. So it was like I had these great people to kind of, lead me and show me the way, and I'm very old school. Yeah, I can't deny that. I am old school in comic books. I mean, the comic books I grew up on, that's my storytelling. I mean, I feel like, Mark Grunwald's right when he says that, if the reader can, tell what, or can figure out the ending before the ending, that's a crime. But if the reader can come up with a better ending, that's a sin, and that's the goal is, it's like you have to make it, better and more exciting and more accessible. And it's got to be enough of, and I hate using this word because some people will cringe, but almost a soap opera too, because it's got to tell a story that pulls in the reader, I mean, Peter Parker doesn't get the girl. That's the thing, I mean, that's it. It's a story. But anyway, I digress.
No, I think that's incredible. Now, on the not so negative side, are there things that maybe you saw take place before as an editor that now as the editor-in-chief, you're excited that you were able to make that change because you think this might be better as an editor? Staying away from names, staying away from anything negative, but like there's always good and bad in everything. Is there something that you've been able to change? Like, wow, this I think is what every editor should have been able to do, and now I'm in a position where I could allow that to happen.
Well, a ton of stuff. I mean, tiny things. Just the corner boxes on the covers make me so happy. The past administration, we wouldn't have been able to do that. It's that type of thing. So happy. So
That's awesome. Well, Lisa, I can't tell you how happy I am about the Valiant Universe being where it is at right now. Any fans that are watching this, please go to your comic book shop. Make sure that they're stocking the Valiant Universe. Put it in your pull box. The titles have been awesome. We're on issue 4 of Bloodshot, and it is everything that you want in a Bloodshot comic book, as it should be. I'm really enjoying that. You know, we're a couple issues in, I believe, of X-O. Obviously, we got Faith, we got Ray, we got. I mean, it's awesome. So happy for you, so happy for everybody at Valiant that this is happening. Can you let us know for the remainder of the year, as fans are going to cons, can we expect to see Alien/Valiant booths at like San Diego or other cons moving forward throughout the year?
We are going to be in San Diego. I don't believe we have a big presence, but we'll be in San Diego.
Okay.
We will be in New York Comic Con as well. Yeah, definitely.
Beautiful.
I don't know about any place else yet. I mean, we might be walking around, but I don't know that we'll be setting up.
Okay. But San Diego, you will have some sort of a setup, or you'll just be walking around?
I believe there is some sort of one, but it's not going to be a very big one.
Gotcha. Yeah. No, that's awesome. Just in case fans want to stop by.
Yeah, there'll be a spot.
Hopefully meet maybe some of the writers, artists, and letters and whatnot.
Absolutely. In fact, I know for a fact that Liam Sharp and Becky and Michael will be signing on at the booth.
That'll be exciting. Yeah. And then as far as how people follow you, Lisa, how they follow Valiant from a social media standpoint for YouTube, what's the best way to follow you?
That's yeah. I really am not out there too much. You know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm on Facebook, but you really don't follow me on Facebook. Yeah, no, Valiant. I would just go Valiant. I'd rather go to Alien. All of the Alien websites. That's the best way to find. We have a newsletter I know as well that you could sign up for there.
That's excellent. Is there anything we're leaving out, Lisa, that you would love to share with anybody that's watching about the Valiant Universe, or anything we left out that we should have talked about?
No, I mean, we have great books coming out. Right now our August titles are fantastic. We have swimsuit variants, and I'm not a huge cover variant fan, but these swimsuit variants are fantastic. There's a play on the Copper Tone commercial, or the commercial with Bloodshot. It just brings a smile to my face. So they're worth checking out for sure. In our September books, I mean, obviously, Resurgence goes on sale in September. Really hope people pick it up. I really hope they get excited about it. I mean, just from page number 1, it's going to knock people on their socks and reveal things that are pretty revealing. So.
Awesome. Incredible. Well, Lisa, I want to be very respectful of your time. Thank you so much for joining me today. Congratulations on your promotion. Congratulations on everything. Oh, yeah. And congratulations on everything that's happening with Alien and Valiant. I'm so glad that these titles are being made available the way they are.
Yeah, me too. So just go out and pick them up and enjoy. And I love feedback. I love hearing about it, especially, I mean, even if you don't like it, especially if you don't like something, I want to hear about it because I want to do it right. So, don't be too shy. You just don't be nasty. But
I know.
I do want to hear it because I love these characters, and I feel very honored to be able to play in this particular sandbox, and I want to do them justice.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Lisa. Really appreciate your time. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week and weekend, and hopefully we could do this again soon.
Thank you so much, and everybody stay valiant.
Exactly.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.